Mr. Allard's Neighborhood. Small town feel with big time ideas. After all, you are entitled to Brad's opinion. Here's your host, Brad Allard.
Yeah, you like that? It's pre-recorded because Taylor didn't show up here much at all, does he, bud?
No, I
No, we're in the good hands of young Josh here.
Taylor got sick of you, I guess.
Yeah, no, it's pretty much. No, I'm a small fry. He's a big wheel. He got this Airwave Studios going 24/7, rocking. He doesn't need me. Anyway, even though I helped build his studios, dadgummit. I'm sure he's listening now.
Yeah,
but anyway.
I love the way where you don't take credit.
Oh, yeah, I'm very humble. That's one of my best qualities is my humility. Well, obviously, we have the mayor here. We're going to talk about the Central Appraisal District. We're going to talk about the upcoming budget. We're going to talk about, what makes him cry? I don't know. We'll find out.
Onions.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
About it.
Onions. Okay. No sloppy movies, sports movies that don't do it. Okay.
My kids telling me they love me. That'll get to me.
Oh, okay.
But I don't cry.
Okay, good. Neither do I. You say, well, of course you do. Here's your $1. Anyway, let's talk about the ads before we get into all this goofy stuff. All right. Well, first of all, everybody knows Auto in our place. I'll be there Thursday morning with the usual crew. I have a gentleman that try to make things work. You know, of course, you were friends with James Smelly. You know, it's really good. It's the world according to James. So
there's a bunch that can fix the world problems right there, bud.
Well, you're welcome to come join us if you've done it before.
I have. And y'all trade me bad, so I left.
Yeah, that's right. We said, not Baptist. We could tell. Anyway, so Our Place Restaurant, everybody knows. Of course, they have the Our Place too that's open up down the street, and they seem to be doing very well. And Gina's Pizza, I really do like this place because you get a nice pizza and a beer. You can go watch the ball game this afternoon and things of that nature. It's a good place to hang out. That's where I do all my podcast business, so to speak. If I'm meeting a sponsor or a potential sponsor, I try to meet them there. Also, our friends at Old Pro Roofing. Hope John's catching up. We had a little bit of dry weather, but boy, last week he was busy. 817-734-2756, and he'll come check your roof out and let you know what's going on. Of course, Old Pro, I like using them because their home folks are right here in the middle of town, and and everybody trying to make a living. I get it, but you want to deal with somebody that's local.
Yes.
Because everybody that comes knocking on your door for a roof may or may not be around in a week. But as far as him, he's going to be here, and they go all over DFW. So he's busy right now up in the mid-cities because they got hit pretty hard last week. Also, my friend Jeff Kelly was on last week at this, a week ago, Monday, whatever. And we were talking about real estate, and I'm sure the mayor here has some idea what's going on with the real estate. He says things have slowed down a little bit in May and June. And I read that as kind of a nationwide thing. But we're still expanding, just maybe not quite as quickly as before. But we'll pick it up again, I'm not quite sure. But call them at 817-781-0546. It's a good show because it talked about the rates, and a lot of people keep waiting for the rates to come down, and they just kind of seem to be stuck there. But what he'll tell you though, buy the house, you can refinance. What is it? Marry the house, date the rate is what they say in that business. So that makes sense. And my friend Tiffany Jane, we all know Tiffany Jane. She's going to have the magazine out in a couple weeks. 30,000 homes get it. It's really good advertising. She makes a very quality product. And, the mayor's been in it, 3-4 times that I know of. And, they're smiling and happy. And is it true they're going to rename this town Fletcherville? I didn't know that. I heard that was a rumor, something like that. But anyway, Local Life magazine coming out in about a week and a half.
It had a ring to it, you know that?
Yeah, Fletcherville. It sounds good. Anyway, also,
there might have been some people just got off.
I don't think so. You kidding? You're gonna have a statue to you when you're done years from now.
Statue, pigeons land on those.
Yeah, okay. Bass Printing and Consulting. My friend Al Warner. You got promotional products you want: hats, shirts, cups, keychains, the whole 9 yards. He does my business cards and my trifolds and my mailers and things like that. And you can call him at 817-616-8761 or at Alrick, that's ALRICK, at BassPrinting.com. He's here in the hub where he works out of, and so he also is local. And a lot of us in BNI use him, and we really think he does a great job. So, and even if he was part of BNI and he didn't do a great job, we wouldn't use him, but we do because we really do like the quality of his work. Anything else going on? we have a couple of nonprofit things going on. I believe there's. Go ahead and put that one on for the golf tournament. Yes, somebody you know, Jack
Friday.
Manson. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, he was on like the 5th of this month promoting this. He and his Marine crew are putting on this golf tournament over at Hidden Creek, and it's for a great cause. You know, a lot of these wheelchairs, these automated wheelchairs, are really expensive. I mean, they're like almost like a small car in expense, and so a lot of people obviously can't afford it, and so they're raising money to try to help a family in the name of a gentleman named Les Stevenson. Did you know Les Stevenson by any chance? Mm-hmm. And so Jack and his crew are putting on this, and it's on June 27th at Hidden Creek. It starts at 8 o'clock. It's $150 per player. It's $500 for 4 players. And they got challenges and raffles and whatever else. They showed me what they were raffling. It's really pretty nice. I mean, they're raffling off some pretty nice stuff there. It isn't like, oh, here's a couple of movie tickets or a gift certificate or something like that. They're raffling some legitimate stuff, so go check it out. Yeah, there it is. The nice grill, one of these Traeger grills.
Traeger grill.
Yeah,
that's good. That's good stuff.
That is, and a nice Yeti cooler. And what I liked was this one. That's the one that was a recipient from a couple of years ago. The young kid on the right, and Jack will tell you even the toughest Marines get teary-eyed when they present it to the family because they know what a life changer this is. I like this one right here. For $20, you can get 10 tickets and get a freezer full of meat. You know, and that's $500 worth of meat. Thank you. That's a pretty good deal. And so, particularly with meat costs these days. Anyway, so let's talk about what's going on in the city. The thing that last time we talked about was primarily on your mind was the Central Appraisal District. So what's the status of that?
Oh.
That sounded good.
You just kind of threw that in my lap, didn't you? Mm-hmm. Okay, it's budget season for the city, okay? And we got 2 things going on right now. Number one, we're having to deal with the CAD, but we just got finished with the state legislature. And the thing that's going on right now is trying to figure out what revenue we're going to have.
I was going to ask you about the legislature towards the latter half of the show, because when we were communicating prior to the show this weekend, the CAD was the first thing on your mind, apparently. So,
well, okay, so there's 2 counties in the state that has a 3-year reappraisal, and I understand the intent. I really do. We're going to lock up your property tax, your valuation, so it won't go up for 3 years. Well, there was legislation to make the CAD go to a 1-year appraisal, and it died. It never came out to the Senate. It died by the lieutenant governor. It never even went to committee. He didn't. Him and his Tarrant buddies let it die.
Or is it Harris County buddies too? I mean,
the intent of this was to save citizens money on their property tax. It was. And I can go off in the weeds real quick on this too. So I think the CAD board's heart was in the right place. The city has a 3.5% growth that we use. That is the growth. It's natural inflation. Your food goes up a little bit because of inflation. This happens because of inflation. Everything the city deals with goes up in inflation. So we have a modest 3.5% growth. What this is doing is saying you can't have that. So for 3 years, and they've got a line item in this that says that the CAD board can go in and do an appraisal anytime they want to. There's a lot of explanations. I don't know if anybody's going to be able to follow this or not, but I'll try.
Okay.
So if they do that, that will cost the city $15 million in revenue.
Over the next 3 years or 1 year?
Next 3 years.
Okay. Roughly 5 a year.
Okay.
That's a lot.
So I go to the CAD board and I do this presentation. And it went fairly well. They're very adamant about this 3-year reappraisal. the schools will get hit the worst on it. So one of the board members said that people can't afford their property tax. I agree. Well, this fixes it. No, it doesn't either. There's a couple of things here. What happens at the end of the 3 years and everything has gone up? 3.5 times 3 is how much?
Oh, yeah, you said to be no math.
Okay. Over 10%.
Right.
Okay,
right.
11.5. So are they going to dump all that on you at once? Okay, that's just a possibility. What else? Okay. Okay, but here's the deal. If we've already had to go back and look at our capital improvement programs, we've already cut back on a lot. We're just trying to survive the best way we can, but we're sitting here with this growth coming in. Projections right now, we need 18 more. Within the next 5 years, we'll need 18 more police officers. The same amount in firefighters and paramedics, okay? But let me throw another thing up. You take our money away, and one of your poor people runs his car off in a pothole that we couldn't fix because we didn't have the money to do it. How are they going to fix that car? And that front end could be more than what they're going to be paying in property tax.
Easily. I know I was not unaware, but I really didn't pay a lot of attention to the roads until about a few months ago when Victoria was on the show, and she talked about how her email box gets filled up with people saying this road, that road, the other road is all needs repair.
Thing.
Right. And so now I've been paying more attention, and I didn't really realize how much repair Hidden Creek needed. There's a lot of repairs being I see them being done, and it's a great thing. But I also know we've talked about this road before, that 714. Now they got that Pecan Grove housing development going on out there, and that's just going to add more pressure on that very, very small and beat up road. So, and I know part of it's the county's and part of it's yours. So that's the kind of thing I would figure is the kind of stuff that you're having to deal with right now. And then you have the CAD coming in, and they potentially could be cutting your ability to fund this without having to have a massive tax increase or a bond. I don't know how it'd be fixed, but you don't want to do that.
It depends on what we're needing done and which direction we'll go in. More than likely, we'll have to go up on the right. And here's the deal, guys. I don't run from any conversation. You know that. Everybody knows. You want to talk to me. If you want to chew me out, that's fine, too. I understand that.
I will vouch that you always respond to anything I've ever asked.
It's if I don't respond and I see you later, what's that going to be like? Okay? Here's the bottom line. We need the citizens to understand what's going on. So I'm in the process right now to start having Facebook Lives with the city. This has been done before. Dan and Catherine did it a long time ago. They got a lot of good questions. So we're going to do that. We don't know exactly when it's going to start. We're going to get closer to. We don't have all the answers. We're still waiting on what our revenue is going to be over this property tax thing. We don't know which way the CAD's going to go. So when it's time, I'll be answering questions, and I'll have city people there. If I don't know the answer, I got somebody there that'll do it.
Well, I'm sure you're going to have Tommy.
Tommy will be there.
And
Harlan Jeffries is our finance guys. He's got all the questions, so they'll be available to me if I don't have the direct answer.
For those who don't know who Tommy is, it's our city manager, Tommy Ludwig.
Yeah.
And as far as
he's been a blessing.
Well, I bet. Yeah, I hear really good things that he really knows what he's talking about, and you get a straight answer and that kind of thing. What also I don't know what this new $40,000 increase in the homestead exemption is going to do. It's going to be up for an election in early November. It was signed a couple of days ago by the governor, so we're going to have a November election about it, and it'll pass. I mean, who's going to be opposed to having their homestead tax exemption increased? And so I wonder how that'll affect a lot of revenues as well.
I don't have any idea. I know.
It does,
I know that the state has more than enough money. They really do. They get theirs off that 6 cents that they get on sales tax. They have got a glut of money. I've had several people say we're trying to figure out a way to spend it. But now they're doing some stuff. Several legislators have told me that the money that they're allocating to the school is coming out of a fund that is not replenishable. And that's a concern.
Yeah, it is.
Are we kicking another can down the road? It seems like we got about a half dozen cans.
Well, yesterday I did a show on the Texas educational bill, and they really put a lot of money into it. Now, I don't know how people feel about it, but I was surprised that it was that much money. But what they also did is that most of that money is in designated expenditures. It isn't like, here's some money, go spend it as you will. Very little of it actually is at the discretion of the schools. But a lot of things that are dictated by the use of that money are things we need: security, special ed, things of that nature. My concern was, in the next session or maybe the session after that, are they going to be able to maintain that level of spending, or will they start cutting back because Texas isn't going to be as flush like this forever. We're going to have times in which, like
that's
they did
another
50 years ago.
I'm telling you, that's another rabbit hole.
Yeah.
When you sit here and you look at the number of chip manufacturers, data banks, these places, they take a lot of energy, they take a lot of water. So we've got issues.
Well, I know my folks over in Corsicana. I don't know where it's stat-sized now, but at Corsicana there was one of those Bitcoin mining operations that want to go right outside of town, and it was a big problem in Corsicana because it was going to severely impact their electrical grid, because those things take immense amounts of energy.
Well, I also figured out that they don't make this money on the mining.
Yeah,
they've got this bank of batteries. Every facility has this bank of batteries. So they buy up electricity when the rate is cheap and sell it back to the grid when the price goes up. And I was asking Senator King about this. He was the one that told me. And I said, well, why doesn't the state just create their own battery bank? And they're having a problem getting that approved.
Well, getting things through legislature is it's a hassle, isn't it?
Oh my gosh, I was more involved in this legislation than I've ever been before, and it was just really disheartening on some of this stuff.
Well, it is because Texas is not governed in the same ways like the U.S. Congress is in terms of ability to lobby and ability to give to campaigns, et cetera. Mr. Williams up in Washington doesn't have the ability that, say, Dan Patrick does in raising the kind of money he does. And so you can get, like we have in this state, 3 or 4 guys that fund a lot of different campaigns.
And it's happening.
Yeah.
It's not hypothetical. That is, it is happening.
No, that's what cost Dwayne Burns his seat.
And we've got lobbyists. They are the tobacco lobbyists, the alcohol, all of that. They dictate what these guys do.
It was like the casino gambling. One of the biggest donors against it is WinStar and Choctaw and all those Oklahoma, and they're giving a lot of money to Texas politicians to keep casino gambling out of Texas.
Yeah,
and I have a mixed view of casino gambling. Not just because it ain't Baptist or whatever, but there are some associated problems with gambling and casinos. There is an uptick in property crimes and things like that.
I agree.
But there's a lot of money.
I don't have any numbers to back that up.
Yeah. Well, it's I've read articles. It's kind of like when they put them in Louisiana. State of Louisiana made money, but Shreveport had to deal with all the problems and that kind of thing, or Baton Rouge. And that's the kind of thing I think will happen if they have a casino in Fort Worth. There'll be a lot of tax revenue for the state and for the federal government. But Fort Worth PD is going to be handling all the bums, and so that's how it works. And so I have a very mixed opinion about it. But anyway, as far as the tax situation is like, when I look at my property tax bill, I guess because I've done this show and I worked at the school system, I don't have the angst about it because I know where it's going more or less. But you probably have to deal with people that don't know where their money's going to.
It is amazing how people are not in the know of how this works.
Yeah.
We have two major revenue streams. One is our property tax, and the other one is our sales tax. Sales tax, we get three different ways out of it. One, out of that 8.25, 1 cent goes to our general fund. Then a half cent goes to economic development. That's where the abatements and stuff like that happens, and growth and things. And then the rest of it goes, the 4B goes to parks.
You know, I had Alex on, and of course, you can't get anything out of Alex.
Yeah, you can. You gotta wait him out.
I guess so. But after the show, I said, okay, now we're off the air. Tell me what's going on. And he goes, I can't tell you, Allard. You'll have to find out the rest of them. But you'll really, really like it. And it turns out that it was at Barnes & Noble, you know, and I did really like it. So
Yeah, Nancy's fired up.
yeah, I miss that Borders. They used to be right next door to where this is going in. And you can go have a little coffee, read a magazine, whatever. But no, Alex is worth the money, and I can't get anything out of him. I mean, he'll tell me, well, here's what we're looking and hoping, but it's all in generical terms, you know, if that's a word. So anyway, so you're getting your money's worth out of Alex. I'm waiting for him. I'm waiting for Alex to jump in.
You might be busy today.
Yeah, who knows? Most people watch this show or listen to it in the evening or afternoon or the next day or when they get around to it, when they're driving around. But anyway, back to the tax issues. I mean, y'all, I know you're already in the process of forming next year's budget. That's not something that you just wake up in the middle of September. Oh my, we have a budget to prepare. I mean, what is coming on the horizon that gives you some concerns as far as expenditures and things of that nature?
We were, at one time, our pay was up in the top 3 of cities of our size, okay? And there is such a fight over that personnel is now we're going to have to go up on the pay to keep them.
Right.
And that's fine. I'm happy for them. That's a big deal. That doesn't address the fact that we need the 18 more cops.
Right.
You know, I think we need a dozen more firefighters. We're going to need another fire station. That'll be a bond package.
Yeah.
And here's, let's look at our footprint, okay? When you take, we're at 57,000 now, and we border Fort Worth, and we have big city crime. We're 57,000 people, but we have the same crime issues on 35 that Fort Worth does.
Yeah.
But we don't have the money like Fort Worth to take care of that. Burleson really screwed up when they started giving that land rate. They didn't, years ago. Burleson didn't want to grow. Hughley wanted to be in Burleson, okay? That whole intersection, Oldsbury and that, going north, they gave that up. We had it, gave that up. So now we're paying for that. We need I-35. We need density on I-35 to get our tax base up. We don't have that right now.
Really? Yeah, I know that on the east side, a lot of that is Fort Worth. You know, we've talked about that
We
before.
have 2 hotels.
Yeah. 2? Just 2?
Just 2.
Okay.
Might be 3, but I think it's
Well, I'm thinking those around Miranda's. You know, I think there's 3. And
Okay, maybe so.
but everybody thinks like Hampton Inn and that Holiday Inn and all that is us. It's not. It is, and people thought when specs came in that would solve the restaurant supply issue. No, it didn't do a thing for us, right? And it's so, you know, and I asked Alex, and basically Fort Worth doesn't share the information, but, you know, I wonder what's going up on that corner right across from our place in McDonald's on Allsbury. I see a building going up. I don't see.
It's got for lease signs in it.
Right, but I haven't
Apparently
seen.
they don't have anybody in it.
Any tenants yet. But everybody assumes wrongly that all that stuff on the east side, like Chili's and on the border, Spinks, all that.
That's Fort Worth. But the road is ours.
Yeah, and your responsibility, right?
That's exactly right.
And so, and then you go on the west side. You say it's not dense enough. How would you increase density within our city limits on the west side of the highway?
Well, here's the problem. People get upset when you say the apartment word.
Right. Oh yeah.
Okay. The reason our apartments are so bad is they were built in an area that wasn't able to handle the traffic. If we built something along 35,
yeah,
You're talking about, we're a bedroom community right here. They're going to Fort Worth to work. Perfect place for them, and we get that revenue, and that's a cash cow.
I'm just kind of wondering geographically where an apartment on the highway would fit, because I mean you have those Gateway Station, and then you have the other shopping complex that half is Burleson, half is Fort Worth. You know where Best Buy is. You know, so
you can step off at 35 a little bit and have access to it.
Okay. So we're talking about what you would like is between Wilshire and, say, Alsbury, or Wilshire and McAllister. Something
What
like
I'm
those.
saying is, if you want to get density and get revenue stream, apartments does it.
You know, it's interesting because...
And I'm gonna get my throat cut on
Yeah,
this
I
one
know.
too, because there's people out there that's just bottom line, and this is people need to understand. There's a place for everything. It just has to be in the right place.
Right. I do know that apartments has been a controversial subject for as long as I've been doing a show that deals with city stuff. I mean, it's been one of those perennials that everybody gets upset about apartments. And I think in their mind, they think of apartments similar to what they see in Fort Worth. That, you know, guy builds them, they look kind of nice for 10 years, and then they go to crap. And
That's a real possibility.
You know, and so... And the state doesn't really allow you a lot of latitude in how to deal with that, does it? Because I do know that you can't put on restrictions on building that the state doesn't have already. You can add to them. That was passed in the last legislature. So if you have a situation where you got a dilapidated apartment, but it still meets the state code, then you're SOL. Certainly out of luck.
You're right. Unless you, like Old Town has got an Old Town standard. It's in a TIF. So we have a board that has to approve the cosmetics when it goes up.
Yeah.
So, but you're right. The state is taking a lot of power away from the cities.
Yeah, and
It's hurting us.
It is, and I don't understand it because for generations, the political philosophy, really on both sides of the aisle, was local control. But I was reading a lot of stuff, and again, I'll get to it in a few minutes. But they pass a lot of things that restricted the city's ability to do things. I'm thinking
This comes down to lobbyists.
Yeah.
You've got money. What happened in Fort Worth on the 3-year reappraisal, that was Fort Worth lobbyists that did that and killed it. I mean, Helen Kerwin was talking about it last night at the council meeting, and it said, this is a swamp. You know, if you got money, you can get it passed. And that just means that someone got money to vote the way they wanted.
yeah, I don't teach at Hill anymore, but for a long time I taught Texas government classes. And that's one of the things I try to stress with the students is that, you know, y'all are used to thinking of government with Washington, D.C., but really it's the local guys that affect you a whole lot more. And that's why I always would chide them for not voting in elections.
Nobody.
No. They're watching.
Are you getting it?
Well, if they're watching but not commenting, I see it. But if they're not commenting, they have to comment to actually get on the screen. They won't put like so-and-so is watching on the screen. But if I'm getting it, you know. But
Somebody needs to say hi. I'm feeling lonesome.
but as far as
Popularity's gone.
yeah, well, if I ever had it, so you know, so there you go. But the thing about it is, you know, the ability of the local communities to govern has gone just out the window, just like it
They're
did in public
making it
schools.
tough. I mean, and Burleson is sitting in our sales tax is good because of our location. And now we've got Old Town that is just kicking it out of the park. I mean, it's a home run every time we turn around. The concerts are great. I love doing those entries. We got a good one coming up on Friday night.
Yeah, there's Irma. You know, Miss Irma, I'm sure. She likes the local shows. She was commenting a lot yesterday, too, so she's an avid listener.
Excellent. Tell Brandon hi.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we got a lot of neat stuff going on. We've got the ability to, and we're growing. I saw a presentation last night that was really pretty cool. Golf course. You was talking about the golf course a while ago. We've improved that. We got a great manager. Jen we're putting money into it. It is the most self-sustaining since this opened up.
You know, I had a couple of young ladies from the Parks Department talk about the honey tour and all that, and I'm very, very impressed with the way Burleson maintains its parks and finds little niche parks, little spaces that otherwise would be unused and just have weeds growing. We take these little neighborhood areas that have no other use for, and then make it nice, put some playground equipment on it, stuff like that. It makes a neighborhood.
Oh, Jen Basham was our director of parks, and she is just knocking it out of the park.
We do really have some very talented people working for our city.
All across the board. Every time you turn around, what is really neat about being at City Hall and everywhere, everybody wants to be there. It is you see people laughing and cutting up and getting their jobs done. Ideas are flying everywhere. It's a neat place to be.
Besides roads, you already mentioned about the police officer need, 18 new officers soon, new firemen. The longer, I know this isn't your fault by any means, but the longer we have to go through all this process to get that new station built, are we going to be building a station that already will be overcrowded?
You're talking about on the west side?
We're talking about, yeah.
Oh, yeah, we're doing that right now.
Yeah, right.
We had to move a gas line out front to get started, but that's already, we had to do that. What got me was the fact that when they bought that building to put the police station there, we weren't even at 50% of the needs. But we got a good deal on the building. So not only we were still behind when we moved into that facility, we grew. So that's the reason we had to do that. We were so far behind the curve on this. So yeah, and they're getting some things that it's going to be really good.
Well, Colin Gregory's telling us they're all practically on top of each other down there. And are we planning on building the new station with room to grow into? Well, we'd like to think so, but
a little bit.
Yeah,
a little bit. This is a 20-year facility, and it really depends on the growth. We don't know if it's going to keep up. We'll max out at around 96,000 on the footprint we're on.
So when you're mayor 20 years from now, you'll be dealing with this all over again. Is that what you're saying?
What's that guy that talks to the dead? You're going to get your answers that way?
No. I figure if Joe Biden can last this long, certainly you can.
Why? This is getting brought up a lot here lately. I don't want to be a Joe Biden.
No, you're not. Holy Toledo. Joe Biden was Joe Biden 50 years ago.
Okay, if I do run again and I start acting like Joe Biden, you going to tell me?
Oh, yeah. I'll have you on the show and say, let's make fun of the mayor.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yes, but anyway,
you got to deal with Nancy after that.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't think of that. But as far as, all these growth needs, so you start going through the budgetary process, like I'm sure Tommy is doing right now.
Yes.
And you're going through all this process of, trying to figure out the needs, and then, but it's just so difficult when you don't know where the revenue is going to be, and you're not even going to know until really almost 6 weeks after the budget has been approved and put into place of what's going to happen to the status of your property taxes with that election.
Yeah, we're close to knowing, but we're already reducing a lot of the CIP, stretching it out further.
CIP?
That's the capital improvement plan.
Right, okay. Well, Sherry Scott says, hey.
Oh.
Okay. Well, it's here on the phone.
Okay. Direct line.
Yeah, that's right. Well, that's like I say, when they're watching.
Sherry, I signed that piece of paper you warned me about. Okay. That's all I'm going to say.
All right. Well, the thing is, when you're doing this budget, there's so many variables and unknowns. And then, of course, this got to be frustrating for you. You have, I know, several open meetings, several workshops that everybody can attend and all that. And I'm sure there's plenty of room in that room, because a lot of people don't pay
we got
attention.
Citizens 101, and the class is filled up every time. And what we do is we take the citizens, and every department has a presentation and says exactly how it works. I highly recommend that. Every class that we've done, we've had 2 classes, and they fill up in a hurry. But we actually go to locations and show them what we do, how we do it, why we do it, how it's funded, the whole thing. And it's pretty amazing. And the feedback that I get Mary Slaney took it, okay?
And she messaged me. She said, I need to take it. You know, and if the Queen of Burleson says I need to take it, I better think about that really hard.
People ought to line up.
Yeah.
I'm telling you what, I would like to get to a point where we're doing a couple of them a year. But it is very eye-opening. Tomorrow I speak to a class at Hill College. Adam and Victoria will be with me. But these kids, they need to know how this works.
I could promise you, after teaching a lot of the Hill College students, it's not that they are, ignorant. They just don't. They think of politics as a national thing, not a local thing. And I'm always stressing to them, it's those local elections y'all need to participate in, because they're the ones that talk about taxes and picking up your trash
And it's not
and all that
political
good stuff.
It's really not political.
Yeah.
Since I've been mayor, I have not had one issue up there about any affiliation. None. It's about what's good for the city. But how you fund this and like we have had a bond package that I really pushed not too long ago. We haven't used all that money yet. We don't. We only draw it out and pay interest on it after we purchase sell the bond.
I was going to ask you about some of the bond issues. I know that when you ran, that was a concern. And now, I mean, have you had people that have pushed back on you about the bonds?
No.
No, really, they understand.
It has done exactly what we said we was going to do.
Okay.
It did not raise your rate because of that. We actually, since I've been mayor, I've dropped 10 or 12 cents. Now we're going to have to go back up because of the economy and everything. But that bond package did not make your rate go up.
Well, good, because I know that sometimes people think because they voted for somebody that you owe them one, and that's just not how this works. What you owe them is your attention, your time, and your energy, and that's it. You don't owe them a yes or no vote on certain things. And because Victoria's talked about this, other people have talked about this, that I've had school board members talk about this, where they say, well, they encounter every now and then, it's not a common thing, people say, well, I voted for you, therefore you should. And like, no, I should do what's best. That's why you voted for me.
With the information I have.
Right.
And see, and that's one of the things that not everybody has the same information that we have.
Most people don't.
Okay? It's not a secret. It's not anything. You didn't watch.
Well, and
if you had watched, you would have seen this presentation that we base our part on.
As a citizen, though, right now, I know Tommy and his crew are going through preliminary budgeting. And it's all done in-house. I mean, it's all computer. It's all speculation. Does a citizen really need to be looking over Tommy's shoulder and looking at every detail?
They need to show up to a meeting because that presentation will be here. We had, last year or year before last, we had two guys show up on the night that we was actually just voting for the budgets. Okay?
Right.
And we were called thieves, liars, and everything.
I know what you're talking about. Yes.
If you want to make a difference, show up during the budget process and hold your hand up. We'll listen to you.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
But when you show up at the end of everything, after we've been working on it for 4 months, and then get your little panties in a wad,
Yeah, I
come
agree.
talk to me.
I agree. I mean, that's... And the thing about also this budgeting is, like, if you expect it to all go your way, well, you're going to be sadly disappointed, because even you, who have the ability to do something with the budget, I'm sure you don't get 100% your way. I mean, this ain't Chicago. And so, you probably have had to make compromises thinking, well, this is something I really wanted, but I'm only going to get 70% instead of everything.
But here's the deal. I have got the greatest counsel I've ever had. The left side to me is financial brains. Victoria knows her stuff. I mean, she's in on it. She's been around city government a lot. But those three guys over there, I got a banker, a businessman, and a railroad executive. They know their stuff. I will read agendas and see the financials, but there's a lot of times I wait until I see their position on stuff, because I don't catch everything like they do. It's pretty incredible. So when you say get in your way, I really, it really, how many times we vote alike, it was because of the good discussions that we have during these meetings.
Well, when I say get in your way, I'm trying to dispel the notion that basically you dictate where the money goes. It is a very, very collaborative process.
I get one vote.
Yeah. And so
I'm one of 7, which is the way it's supposed to be.
Sherry says, serving on the council ain't no joke. Larry spends so much time reviewing and studying the agenda and budget. I think,
Oh, he's amazing.
I think
He is so in depth that I don't even come close to what Larry does.
Well, Sherry said they're pen pals now, that he's so busy with stuff, and so they kind of wave at each other every now and then. But as far as
And he loves it too, Sherry. I'm sorry, sweetheart. You don't come this prepared and hate the job, okay? But yeah, Larry's amazing.
well, and you got, of course, Dan with his expertise in construction, and you got Phil that could sell sand to the Arabs, so he could be really good at, getting the people to understand it. I mean, I've known
And
Phil
here we're talking
for 30
about
years, so
CAD and real estate. I've got Alexa sitting there. She knows her stuff.
right.
And
I was
I'll
going to
lean
bring
on
her
a
up
lot.
too. Yeah, she knows the real estate. Yeah, we are well positioned to cover what needs to be covered. And,
Absolutely.
And
And here's another thing, though, and I don't mean to interrupt you.
no, go ahead.
We have a soft heart, but that council will make the hard decisions if we have to. And we've done it. So when y'all get mad at us, it doesn't mean that we're happy about what we had to do. We just had to do it.
Right, and that's the hard part of governing.
It's hard.
Yeah,
I mean, I hate it when somebody calls me up and I can't give them the answers that they want.
Right.
We just can't do that. And that's the one thing that has saved my bacon is the fact that I don't like going back and forth on text and emails.
Right.
I want to talk to you. Send me your phone number, and I promise you, we will talk. You might not like my answer, but at least you'll understand why.
Well, I don't engage like I used to at debates on Facebook because there are people that are determined to have the last
can't-
word.
Nobody wins.
Yeah, and it's like I'm not going to be. What I want to be dealing with is 3 days later. Having this extended debate on Facebook. So I usually don't. And I've been called out a couple of times on that too, but I don't care because it's like, I don't really want to get in some long-term discussion. But you go back to a point you made that is true about how frustrating it must be that you put all that work and all that time and all these opportunities for input, and then somebody at the last minute comes and belly aches. I know that's got to be frustrating because
You get used to it.
Well,
you really do, and my heart goes out to them. But I've got another thing that I'm going to bring up. I'll announce it on your show. But
sure, next time or now.
No, I'm not going to do it right now.
Okay, next time then.
We got some
All right.
T's to cross and I's to dot, but it's going to be really, really good for Burleson, and it's a non-profit that I'm teaming up with.
Well, is this something happening relatively soon, or is this going to be in the fall or something like that? Okay, let's talk about it when you come back on again in a few weeks.
Okay. If it's ready.
If it's ready.
A lot of people are getting involved in it, and so yeah, I'm pretty excited about that. That could be my after the mayor thing to do.
Well, I still see you running again, but you said you're not going to make any announcements. You have thought about it. I'm sure Nancy has your input.
I've got a plan.
Yeah,
we
but
just have to see where it goes.
Yeah, so we'll discuss that when time gets closer, when it's time to sign up, which I believe is in November or something like that, or January. But I'm hoping that this is just me talking. I hope you give it every bit of thought and give it all the consideration because
We'll pray about it.
Pray about it and whatnot. This last few years has been productive, and I like to see that continue.
It's been a team effort. I guarantee that. I have been blessed to meet people that has helped Burleson, the ex-mayor of North Wilson Hills. I talk about Oscar Trevino, Victor Vandegrift, Jeff Williams. These guys have been there for us every time we've turned around. The friendships that I have with Scott Kane, mayor of Cleburne, Mayor Wheat, Mayor Elizondo, all of these guys, we have become a team. When we go to a CAD board and you're sitting here looking at 4 or 5 mayors, it makes a difference.
I had Derek Withers on a little while back, about 2 months ago. Yeah. And
He'll be a mayor someday.
Yeah, I think so too.
Cleveland.
He's been on he's been on twice, and I'm going to have him on again. I have him on like once a quarter because I'm trying to bring in Cleburne to this neighborhood concept, whatever. But as far as I asked them, do they look to y'all to see how things can work? And they do. I mean, it's not like they have your pictures on their wall and they, bow to it or something. But they look at Burleson and they say, okay, they found a solution to this problem that we're also facing. Let's see what they're doing. And
we talk about it.
Yeah, so they're looking to Burleson as a guide to how things can be worked out in Cleburne.
Well, and here's the deal: Mayor Kane has done this for a while, and I lean on him. But he looks to me as somebody that's brand new, that's not thinking out of the box. They're just bringing up another way that I don't know any better. It's just I'm trying to figure out a way, and he thinks about it. I like this part too. Kane and I do presentations as a team. We've got one coming up September 2nd that we get up there and we have a blast. We get the audience engaged. We answer questions. Sometimes we argue up there. I mean, this is some of the best, introducing the concerts and doing Q&As is the best part of this job.
When I first moved here, Burleson regarded Cleburne like we regarded the Soviet Union.
They hated each other. The September 2nd is being sponsored by Purdue Brandon law firm that most of the towns use, and they want to know how we brought Johnson County together.
Well, it's a lot of it was football, I thought, or high school sports. And
could have been.
Well, I'll tell you what, it either was the result or the cause of all this head knocking. But I remember going to several Burleson Cleburne sporting events, and then it was like Texas OU or something like that.
Well, here's what I was told, okay? Yeah. And I'm going to assume the gray-headed ladies aren't there no more.
Yeah, okay.
But they were jealous of Burleson. And this was a Cleveland individual, an older Cleveland individual that told me this. They hated Burleson because we were growing and they weren't.
Yeah, I figured there has to be some sort of envy going on.
They ruled who was elected and who wasn't, the whole thing. They had a lot of clout. I don't know, but
yeah,
I got pretty tickled over that one.
Well, a few minutes left. Let's talk about what the legislature did to the cities. I know they think they did stuff for the cities, but I know they did stuff to it. They have taken pieces and pieces and pieces away from y'all and how you can govern. And for example, we can't have our own elections on our own date anymore. It's going to be on early November the next time.
That didn't pass.
That did not pass. Then I got an education because what I last read, it was headed towards passage.
If it had been in November, I would have had plenty of time to get everything done, and I wouldn't run again.
Well,
so
I did not like that. I still don't like the fact that they can control zoning to some degree. I know that I don't know how far they went this session, but I know that's a long-term goal, basically to prevent.
You talking about annexation and
no. I'm talking
ETJ?
I'm talking about zoning within the city. And what the cause of this is that Austin is very restrictive in its building, and this legislature treats everybody like Austin. Oh, Irma says, Chris is taking Allard to class. Well, it won't be the first time. But
I really wish you hadn't said that.
No.
And I was going to make an example out of it.
Well, no, it's all right. Anyway, as far as...
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, as far as the zoning issues, Austin and Houston and all, they have these really restrictive zoning. It's like, that's why it always gets to me about some of these blue cities is that, like San Francisco, they talk a good game, but they don't want to live next to people like that and that kind of thing. And so legislature often looks at Austin and thinks that's going on in every city, big and small, and it's not. But they are moving towards a way that if you wanted to zone certain things, you might have to get approval from the state, or you may be denied by the state. That's where it's heading. And now, I don't know how far they got in this legislature.
I'm not aware of it.
Yeah, but they're moving forward with it because they don't want cities to be restrictive in their zoning. For example, also, I don't know what the zoning law is in Burleson about putting a second home on the same property within the city, but they're going to take away that ability for y'all to prevent that. Like a mother-in-law suite kind of thing.
There was something, and I don't remember specifically what it was, but it failed.
This time. I knew they'll bring it back. That's the thing about it is, Dan Patrick's going to be there till the end of time. And so it's like if they fail to get it through this time, well, they'll throw the money behind the right candidates in the next election and get it done next time, like they did with the vouchers. And that's what's going to happen again. And what would happen? Well, I'm glad it failed. I don't want to say it passed because it didn't. But had it passed, let's say that I had a typical lot in Burleson, I could put a second home behind it, and
Like a tiny home or something?
or as big as you want. But it would add a lot of stress to your infrastructure, a lot of your water and electricity and all that. And
But see, okay, let's go back to density.
uh-huh.
I see where you're at. Mm-hmm. I understand that. Mm-hmm. But then again, you're talking about more property tax.
Well, you talk about a tiny home. You're not,
It's still property tax.
right. It'd be maybe like a 1-bedroom kind of thing for your mom to live in or something like that. And I get it. That's I wish we had more townhomes like that because my parents were at that age that would have worked for them.
So let's go back to the CAD.
Okay.
We're going to run over.
That's all right. Josh, you got anything to do today? Nah. All right. Good. All right.
So go back to the CAD.
Charge Taylor overtime.
One of the things brought up in my presentation, I accused them of kicking the can down the road and not fixing the problem. They have got this new software now that does a overlay of your property. Everybody in Johnson County, this software can look down and see what has been approved and what has not been approved. So you're getting an accurate rendition of your property and what's on it. They don't have to go out and look through the fence, and they're not allowed to go into your property. They don't have to go here and see that. And I got accused of a 2-story house because I had a window in the attic. So that's GPS. This kind of stuff can see that little house in the back, and you'll have to have a permit to get it.
Right.
Are you going to have to meet codes? Is it going to be a pier and beam? Or are they going to bring it in and set it up that way? I don't know how they're going to be able to do that and meet all the codes. Are you going to have a separate meter? Are you going to have to bring the water in from the house and use the same meter? These are issues that they're going to have to address, even though it says you can put a house back there.
Well, the legislature has a habit of passing the bill and letting you handle the details and all the fallout.
And then being upset about it when we do it.
Well, when I was on that education certification board, we would deal with issues related to our area that we were dealing with. Every 2 years, that legislative guy would come in and say, here's what's been passed, and it would be up to us to put it into place and put it into the code and all this other stuff. And we'd come up with, hey, what about this? What about that? Well, the legislature wasn't concerned about what about this and what about that. Get it done, is basically their attitude. Find a way, and if we don't, then we'll be upset. And that's the kind of deal we're dealing with sometimes. I'm old enough to remember, particularly when teaching school, how much latitude we had as a city, as a county, as a school district, and then just more and more that latitude's been taken away.
I know. Well, and I'll tell you something else. They're scared of parents, especially the wives, the women. They are scared of them.
I wouldn't doubt it.
They threaten to sue on a drop of a hat. I mean, I've had conversations where it's not worth the fight.
Yeah. Well,
if we don't get control of that, you take a look at the charter schools out there, and one of the things that I notice is the discipline.
Yeah.
And it's not physical discipline and stuff like that. If you don't want to follow the rules, you won't be there much longer.
Well, that's what I talked about yesterday. Is they did pass that part of the
where the teachers have the ability,
have more ability, and schools have more ability to suspend disruptive students than before.
But here's what I worry about.
Yeah,
that rule is only as good as if somebody backs them up. If they sit there and the teacher says you do this, and her boss or his boss comes up and says, no, you can't do that.
Well, that's been a perennial problem for all teachers, not just BISD, but all of them.
I agree with every bit of it. They ought to have the latitude where they can run their class. Nancy, when she had kindergarten, she would have 22 kids, and 2 kids would take up all of her time.
Exactly.
And so the other kids aren't getting an education.
Well, that's what we talked about yesterday. The idea that some of the people say they oppose this suspension or these discipline issues. You're taking away the kid's opportunity to learn. That kid ain't learning anything, and all he's doing is taking away everybody else's opportunity to learn.
Bingo.
And so that's what I said yesterday. I don't have a problem with that. And the thing I'll give a little bit of cover for BISD. About 10 years ago, a lot of the ability to discipline students went out the window with Mr. Obama's edict about how even if your discipline plan is perfectly neutral, if more of a certain type of student's getting punished than others, regardless of what the demographic is, by race, by gender, whatever.
It doesn't matter.
It'd be a civil rights issue.
Bad is bad.
Yeah, well, not according to Mr. Obama. And that's what, so if you had a situation where a school district, they look at the stats and let's say you have, X amount of special ed students and a little more than X amount of special ed students got discipline issues, then you're violating civil rights. And and it's not just for special ed, it's for black and Hispanic and white kids and all this. And so basically took that tool out, and that's in our last couple of years, it got pretty rough.
Well, they say it doesn't work. It scars the kids. But let me I love this story out here. Years ago, there was two, I think they was 18 years old. The parents let them go to Taiwan. These morons goes off and graffitis a car, and they got caught. You remember this?
I kind of do, yeah.
Yeah. So they arrest them, and they have a jury, and they're going to cane them. Okay?
Yeah.
And the parents fought hard. No, you can't do that. Yeah, you can't. And they do it. And what did the little turds say?
Don't tell them.
They said, we're not ever coming back to this place. See, it works.
It works.
We don't want you here if you're going to do this kind of stuff.
Well, by and large, what was passed on education, I have no problem with. There's a couple things that
We're
I
not
had
getting
issues
off
with.
subject too much, are we?
No, that's fine. Well, but the thing is, though, you think, well, the school's one thing and the city's another, but they're not.
They're really not.
Yeah, and it's not. I mean, they may have different governing bodies and objectives, but they have to work together. And I'm
we
sure,
do very well.
Yeah.
We really do.
And I do think that Mr. Trump, when he came in the first time, he took away all those restrictions. But unlike what a lot of people think, it takes a long time to undo something that's already in place. It isn't like you can walk in on day one. I know he signs all these executive orders, and people think the next day it's done. No. It takes a lot. What these executive orders do is basically set the direction, and it takes a while to undo this stuff.
A lot of this stuff is now a mindset, and you don't change mindsets.
Right.
Overnight.
Well, and that's true, because it's not going to be like if they, with this new bill about suspensions and better discipline in the schools and all this other stuff, it isn't going to be, well, the kids read this and they go, my golly, I better straighten up. They're going to act like kids on September or August 10th or whenever they go back to school. I forget the date. They're going to be kids, and so there's going to be a hard learning curve for both schools and the kids. One thing I do like is they're going to take away cell phones. That's a big problem. I mean,
I tell you what, what opened my eyes, I knew it had happened in a couple of places, and it was sounding really, really good. The superintendent of Grandview, we had a luncheon with several of the officials, and he was there, and he brought it up, and so I started asking him questions about it. They've got this pouch, and it's got a magnet lock on it, so when they come through, they put it in the pouch, it's locked. When they leave, they swipe it underneath, and they get it out. And I said, well, what's the results of this? He said, just go to the lunchroom. The kids are laughing and talking and visiting and getting in trouble for talking too loud and laughing. Said,
Well,
you look at the playground, and they start this in the fourth or fifth grade.
Right.
And it said it is night and day.
Well, I walk into my class at DBU, and there's a half a dozen to a dozen students already there, and they're not having
Every
any,
one of them.
They're ever looking at the phone. They're not talking at all. And same thing happened at Hill. Is like there's no conversation, and I'm like, and I kid about it because in our day we'd walk in and there'd be yik yak and carrying on and that kind of stuff, but also on the academic side of it, people say, well, the phone you could use it as like a for Google and for all this. No, they're not using
That's
it for that.
cheating.
Well, I don't. Some of the cheating
They've got
aspect.
junior high kids using AI to write their papers.
Well, that's true, but I'm talking about back in my day again. Teachers were encouraged to try to incorporate. Yeah, well, they were encouraged to incorporate technology, and that's why we had all those laptops. Those very inexpensive little laptops, whatever. But I could tell you right now, those kids aren't using those phones for educational purposes. One iota. They are either playing games or texting or whatever.
Or looking at stuff they shouldn't be.
Well, right, or yeah, for the most part. I mean, I didn't really have a problem with them looking at trash or whatever. It was mostly video games or other type of games, or they were texting, or they were watching an episode of The Office or something like that, and that's what got to me. So I'm fully on board with this no cell.
Well, I'm telling you, here's our biggest problem. Mm-hmm. Every one of these little old kids is smarter on this phone than we are.
Got that right. I have to call my daughter and say, hey, I get this issue with my phone, and she walks me through it. So, yeah. And I've got Josh over here. He's smirking.
Yeah. Just doing my job. Don't mind me.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, just doing my job. You old coots. Okay, boomers. He hears us. All right. Anyway, we're running close on time.
You said it, not me.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, what I got next week, I'm not sure. I do know Monday, I got a guest I'm really excited about, and that would be my new pastor, Chris Wigley.
Yep.
Yeah,
He
told
said
me.
our prayer last night.
Did he? Well, I had coffee with him about a week ago, and he said, did y'all met already?
Yeah, I'll give you a teaser. He's part of the new project.
Yeah. He mentioned that y'all were working on something. I said, well, what is it? Well, I can't tell you. So he didn't tell me either. Like, what is this?
There you go. Attaboy, Wrigley.
Yeah, but see, I knew Chris when he was our youth minister, and both my kids had, went to church under him. And so I have him, and then I have an open date on the 24th. I'm trying to get Victoria to finally commit, because we want to talk about her position on the COG, and we never got into that.
Yes, and we've got Bedecker. Did we talk about the show?
Yeah,
before the show or during?
Probably before. We could spare a couple of minutes for that.
Oh, let me tell you something. Victoria is now the president of the COG, the North Central Texas Council of Governments, and she will be president for 1 year. That's a window for us to get stuff done. They pass out the federal money. They tell COG where to build, or TxDOT where to build. And then you...
Tim Hoffman, boomers can learn, okay.
R1.
Yeah, right.
And then we need a follow-up for Victoria. Judge Chris Bedecker was just installed onto the General Assembly of the COG. So we have the ability to get him on the executive board within the next year or so. He will term out to president. So long term, no matter who the mayor is, they got to keep this line going. So,
well, we're gonna. What's your plans for summer? You going on vacation or anything like that? You gonna be gone?
Nancy hadn't told me yet.
Yeah, you walk in.
No, we're gonna start traveling a little bit.
I see you walk in, your bags are packed, get in the car. That's how you find out you're going on vacation.
Ma'am.
Yeah, I got you. Well,
Hey, she's taking a back seat on my whole life on business, and now the mayor, and it's her turn.
How about early August? Do you want to do this again? Because that way you'll be in the middle of the budget process. And,
Sign me up.
Yeah, okay. We'll put a date down before you leave. But I'm looking forward to talking with Chris again. He was such a blessing to our church, and he's going to be such a blessing to this community. He's going to really integrate my church, First Baptist, into the community even more so.
All of them.
Yeah. You bet.
You think you're special, don't you?
Yes, I do. Good looking, too. Anyway.
Oh, my gosh, Lord, don't strike him down.
All right, guys. We'll see y'all next Monday.
Thank you, buddy.